Welcome back to The Explainer. After a deep dive into the oceans of Pandora, the Avatar saga is about to get a whole lot hotter. Today, we are breaking down everything you need to know about the next chapter, Avatar, Fire and Ash.
So, to really get why this movie is such a big deal, you gotta follow the money. The first Avatar? It didn't just break records, it completely reset the bar, becoming the highest-grossing film of all time, with a mind-blowing $2.9 billion.
And then The Way of Water came along and proved it wasn't a fluke. It pulled in $2.3 billion, silencing anyone who thought lightning couldn't strike twice. So yeah, saying the pressure is on for film number 3 is a massive understatement.
As you can see, the wait isn't quite as long this time, but the world is definitely getting bigger. We've seen the incredible forests, we've seen the beautiful oceans, but now James Cameron is promising to show us a side of Pandora we have never seen before, one forged in fire and shadow.
Okay, so let's get right into the biggest, most game-changing addition to Pandora. For the very first time, we are going to meet a tribe of Na'vi who aren't exactly the good guys. Everybody, meet the Ash people.
Right, so who are these guys? Well, at the very heart of this new film's conflict is a clan called the Manquan. They're a volcanic tribe, and, as we're about to find out, their entire history is written in fire and what they see as betrayal.
So the story goes that a massive volcanic eruption just completely wiped out their home. They prayed to their goddess Iwa, the life force of the planet, but nothing, no help came. So feeling totally betrayed and abandoned, they became outcasts, turning their backs on Iwa and pretty much the entire Na'vi way of life.
And this right here sets up such a fascinating contrast. It's probably the core theme of the whole movie. I mean, every clan we've met so far has been all about life, connection, and balance. But the Ash people? Nope. They are defined by destruction and this deep, deep bitterness that comes from just trying to survive.
Their leader, a new character named Varang, makes it all chillingly clear. This line, it's not just a threat, it's basically a declaration of war against the very soul of Pandora.
But this whole internal Na'vi conflict is about to get way more complicated. Why? Because the Ash people are not fighting this war alone. They're about to make a deal with the devil, so to speak.
That's right, Colonel Miles Quaritch is back. But after getting beaten by the Na'vi twice, he seems to have a new strategy. If you can't beat them, hey, why not get them to beat each other?
So after losing the full support of the human RDA forces, Quaritch desperately needs a new army. So what does he do? He goes looking for the one group on the entire planet that shares his goals, the Manquan. This just completely shatters that simple human versus Na'vi dynamic we've seen in the first 2 movies.
Now, what's so interesting here is what this quote implies. Quaritch isn't just joining them. Oh no, he's offering them human technology, human firepower. He is arming one Na'vi clan to wage war on another. This creates this messy, complicated 3-way fight for the future of Pandora.
So, with threats now coming from the outside and from within the Na'vi people, the story brings us right back to the Sully family. But they aren't just fighting bad guys. They are on the verge of breaking apart from the inside.
And here it is. This is one of the biggest shifts for the entire franchise. James Cameron himself has confirmed that for the first time, Jake Sully is not our narrator. The story is now going to be told from the perspective of his rebellious son, Loak, which promises a totally different view of Pandora.
The film is also going to go deep into the grief that Jake and Neytiri are dealing with after losing their oldest son, Neytiri. Cameron says this loss is going to test their incredible bond to its absolute breaking point.
And then you have the total wild card, Spider. We know he's Quaritch's son, but he was raised by the Sullys. Apparently, something profound is happening to him. He's seen breathing Pandora's air without a mask and, get this, connecting to a creature with a neural cue. He seems to be physically becoming Na'vi. This is a mystery that could change everything.
All of this amazing story and world building brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, the real-world stakes. Because believe it or not, the battle for Pandora is nothing compared to the gamble Hollywood is taking to bring it to us.
The reported production budget for Fire and Ash is just a staggering number, over $400 million. To put that in perspective, that makes it one of the most expensive movies ever made, and that's before they spend a single dime on marketing.
Which leads to the terrifyingly simple question on the screen. How in the world do you make that back?
especially when you remember that $400 million is just what it costs to make the thing.
Well, when you add in a massive global marketing budget, industry experts figure the movie needs to make over $1 billion worldwide just to break even. For the studio to actually call it a success, it's got to get way closer to $2 billion. And the stakes here aren't just financial. James Cameron has said, flat out, that the future of the entire saga, the planned Avatar 4 and 5, depends completely on how well Fire and Ash does at the box office.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? One that really defines both the movie's plot and the franchise's future. With a war threatening to burn Pandora from the inside out and a billion-dollar gamble riding on the outcome, you just have to ask, will this film's fire forge a new future, or is it all about to turn to ash? An entire cinematic universe is waiting for the answer.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a huge stack of sources, everything from, say, the most expensive movie production in history to some really critical social policy, and distill it all down for you.
And today is all about managing immense complexity.
Yeah.
And what happens when these colossal systems, whether they're fictional or governmental, just don't meet our expectations.
It's a journey from the fiery heart of Pandora to the bureaucratic gridlock of Sacramento. We've got 4 key areas we're unpacking. First, the shifting narrative and the enormous financial risk James Cameron is taking with Avatar, Fire and Ash.
Then we're digging into the deep frustrations around California's highly touted Care Court mental health initiative.
After that, we'll shine a light on the hidden cultural labor, the emotional burden, really, that's placed on children involved in language brokering.
And finally, we have a crucial, impartial check-in on the political landscape. We're synthesizing key updates on the economy and a very controversial leadership transition at the FBI.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting where the budget is biggest. Pandora, Avatar. Fire and Ash is set for release on December 19th, 2025.
And director James Cameron is confirming a much darker, more complex tone.
Right. It moves way beyond the simple, good Na'vi versus evil humans setup.
The primary source of that darkness is this new antagonist clan, the Ash people, the Mangquan clan.
And they're the antithesis of the established Na'vi way.
The complete antithesis. They aren't connected to the natural world or the ocean. For them, strength and survival are, they're rooted in fire and destruction.
They're essentially an outcast clan. The sources say their appearance even reflects that harsh survivalist culture.
It does. They have thinner frames, sometimes described as having gray gloss skin, and they use this bright red war paint.
Which is a massive visual departure from the vibrant blue we're all used to.
And what's fascinating here is that their turn to fire, it's not arbitrary. It's born from abandonment.
Abandonment by who? Or what?
By Awa, their goddess. The source material suggests a volcano destroyed their home, and they prayed to Awa, but no intervention came. They felt betrayed.
Wow. So they were cut off.
Exactly. And in response, they turned against the sacred system of nature, deciding that fire was the only dependable source of strength left.
That makes the leader, Varang, played by Una Chaplin, a far more interesting villain.
So much more interesting. She's not just a warmonger. The material quotes her saying, "Your goddess has no dominion here."
So her evil isn't inherent. It's a response to extreme hardship.
Right. Her motivations are complex. She's doing anything for them, meaning her clan. Even if it's considered evil by the forest people, it just completely reframes the conflict.
And speaking of destruction, the sources raise this debate about Varang's ability to manipulate fire. Is it supernatural, or is it something else?
Well, the argument is that it's the latter. It keeps with the biological science fiction roots of the series.
So an adaptation.
It's most likely. An environmental adaptation, like thicker skin, or maybe they use specific oils or something, it allows them to interact with fire as a tool, not a mystical element. It consciously bucks that trend.
Now, connecting the dots here, Colonel Miles Quaritch, Stephen Lang's character, is confirmed to align himself with the Ash people.
We see him in the trailer covered in their war paint.
And that's a huge tactical shift for him.
A very shrewd one. Quaritch failed in the way of water, so he needs allies. He finds a perfect, powerful partner in Varang.
How does he win her over?
He offers her devastating artillery. He leverages her desire for destructive power by giving her the human tech to achieve it.
This is where it gets really emotionally compelling for me. The Sully family's arc isn't about war with humans anymore.
No, it's about internal breakdown. That's the core of the drama. Cameron has said the film focuses heavily on the raw grief after Neytiri's death.
And that trauma pushes Jake and Neytiri's beautiful romance to its breaking point.
To the absolute brink. Cameron said you can't tell a profound love story without putting it at risk. The loss forces them to confront, these fundamental questions about who they are now.
And the narrative voice is changing too. It's not Jake anymore.
Right. Cameron planned this from the start. The story will now be told through the perspective of Loak, their other son.
The one who really emerged as a character that people went with.
Yes. And among the other details, the most fascinating one involves Spider, the human boy.
What about him?
The sources suggest he gains a biological upgrade, a neural cue.
Wait, the braid? The thing the Na'vi use to connect to animals in Awa?
The very same. So Spider, the human outcast, is potentially getting the biological key to connect fully with Pandora.
So he could maybe even breathe the air without his mask.
It suggests a profound physiological transformation. It's an arc where he might finally find his place, not as a human on Pandora, but as something new.
And there's a second new tribe, the Wind Traders.
The Tulalim. They're described as being like camel caravans of the Spice Road, a nomadic tribe soaring through the sky, corralling massive creatures. It just keeps expanding the world.
Which brings us to the business side. All of this complex, beautiful, expensive storytelling, it comes with a price tag.
A huge one. A production budget that reportedly exceeds $400 million.
That is a staggering number.
It's colossal. And this is where that theme of expectations comes right back into focus. A movie with that budget, it typically needs to earn over $1 billion worldwide.
Just to break even.
Just to recover the budget, marketing, distribution, all of it. So what does that pressure mean for the saga?
The whole future, right?
The entire future. James Cameron has publicly stated that the fate of Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 depends entirely on Fire and Ash being a huge success.
So they're waiting for the box office results before really moving forward.
It's a massive, multi-billion-dollar gamble on a single release.
And a huge part of that budget goes into the sheer scale, like the music. The film's 3 hours and 17 minutes, and the score covers almost all of that.
It's a monumental undertaking by composer Simon Franklin. It took a team of 210 musicians, singers, and engineers.
But the real insight here isn't just the technical difficulty, it's the social impact of where they chose to record it.
Exactly. Franklin and the producers consciously chose to record the score in Los Angeles.
Which bucks a major industry trend.
A huge trend. For years, because of tax incentives, film scoring has been moving abroad, and that's just drained opportunities from the LA film community.
Franklin said there used to be 7 full-time orchestras working in LA.
And now, the decline is stark.
Yeah.
It means a top composer like him can hire the best musicians in the world easily because they're available, but it also shows a massive contraction in opportunities for younger players.
So the Avatar decision to record locally was a significant boost to that community.
A singular but significant choice they made, despite all that financial pressure.
That brings us perfectly to our next topic. We see another massive undertaking, a California policy this time, that was built on high expectations but is now facing its own stark realities.
Let's pivot to California's Care Court initiative.
Governor Newsom presented this in 2022 as a new paradigm.
Right. A pathway to housing and services for people with serious mental illness and addiction. It really generated a lot of hope for desperate families.
And yet, 2 years in, as the program expands, many of those same supporters are saying it has fallen severely short.
They are. The gap between the promise and the reality is structural. It's about scale and compulsion.
Okay, what did the numbers say?
Well, Newsom initially projected up to 12,000 eligible people would be helped. But as of October, the courts had only received about 3,000 petitions.
And how many actual care plans resulted from that?
Only 706.
Yeah.
Almost half of all the initial petitions were just dismissed.
That low enrollment is baffling, given the visible need on the streets of California cities.
And the core conflict here is the nature of the program itself. The policy demands voluntary participation.
But that runs head-on into the medical reality of anosognosia.
Exactly. The inability of a person to recognize their own illness. If you can't recognize you need help, you're not going to voluntarily sign up for a year-long treatment plan.
The sources have a really powerful example of this frustration.
Rhonda DePlaze's story. She fought so hard to get her son into Care Court. But because he can just refuse parts of the voluntary plan, she ultimately tried to pull him out.
Why? That seems counterintuitive.
She reasoned that he would get more mandated treatment, and a better chance at stability if he was arrested and processed through the criminal courts instead.
That is just a devastating indictment of the system.
It is. When families feel the criminal justice system offers a better path to care than the public health system, something is fundamentally broken.
So what's the official response?
State and county officials defend the voluntary nature. They argue it's essential for lasting recovery. But they also acknowledge a, quote, significant disconnect between what families expected and what the law actually prescribes.
So if Care Court, their highest hope, has failed them, where do these families turn now?
They're looking to a new law that takes effect in January 2026. This law expands the grave disability standard in the state's conservatorship law.
Okay, that sounds like legal jargon. What does expanding the grave disability standard actually mean for a family trying to get help?
It basically lowers the legal bar for mandating treatment. Historically, the law focused on whether a person was dangerous. This expanded standard says if someone is so disabled by their illness that they can't provide for their basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, they can be compelled into treatment.
I see. So it provides the compulsory pathway that Care Court lacked.
It's the legislative outcome of all that frustration.
Yeah, well, that context is vital. We've talked about the failure of massive systems, and now let's look at the quiet, often unseen labor that keeps families functioning. Let's talk about language brokering.
This is a huge, unacknowledged phenomenon. In California alone, 1.8 million children live in families where at least one parent struggles with English.
And these children become these indispensable cultural and linguistic bridges.
They do.
Yeah.
And the experience is deeply dualistic. It's both a profound burden and a source of unique strength.
Let's start with the burden. What does that look like?
Children are often put in these very adult roles, translating complex legal documents, navigating tax filings, or mediating sensitive parent-teacher conferences.
Right. Author Kelly Yang shared an anecdote about translating things in her own favor at those meetings.
Which just illustrates the power dynamic and the ethical gray areas these kids have to navigate. It's a massive weight. But the flip side is genuinely moving.
How so?
Well, the act of translation is often framed as an act of kindness and love. It fosters exceptional empathy, kindness, and pride. And we're starting to see this reflected in new children's books, like Little Bird Layla.
The ultimate takeaway seems to be the normalization of vulnerability. The child enables the parent to admit, I don't know, and the family learns together.
Exactly. It moves it from a chore to a source of intergenerational connection. And that recognition of unseen responsibility is a pretty neat bridge to our final topic.
Okay, let's do our impartial check-in on the political landscape, starting with the leadership change at the FBI. Dan Bongino is planning to step down as FBI Deputy Director.
And this move is significant because Bongino was a very unusual and highly controversial choice for the #2 post.
Which is traditionally reserved for career agents.
Right. And neither he nor his boss had prior experience at the FBI. His history as a pro-Trump, far-right podcaster is well known.
He had spent years openly attacking the bureau he was then appointed to help run.
That's the political paradox. He had embraced the narrative that the FBI was weaponized, even called its agents thugs. His appointment was seen as an internal challenge to the institution's integrity.
So his departure signifies a shift in that dynamic.
It does. Now, moving to the economy, President Trump delivered a roughly 20-minute address.
And the focus was squarely on painting his second term as a massive success.
Yes, he blamed current economic problems on the former administration and tried to generate some optimism by promising tax refunds next year. The goal was to shift the narrative.
And this address came at a challenging moment for him, polling-wise.
It certainly did. His approval rating on the economy had hit a low of 36%. And the top economic concern for Americans, cited by 45% in recent polls, is the high cost of living.
So perception and reality aren't quite lining up for a lot of people.
They're not. He did announce one specific policy, though.
The dividend for military service members.
Correct. Nearly 1.5 million of them will receive a 1,776 author Special Warrior dividend before Christmas. A very clear symbolic gesture.
He also continued to champion the use of tariffs as an economic accomplishment. And this is where the sources present a direct contradiction.
A fascinating one. While the president is touting tariffs, the Federal Reserve Chair reported just last week that these same tariffs are actively driving up prices in the goods sector.
Which is precisely where inflation growth is concentrated.
Yes. So the policy being celebrated as a success is simultaneously being identified by economic experts as a core driver of the cost of living concerns that so many Americans have.
That underscores the major political and economic tightrope the administration is walking.
It really does. It raises an important question. If the solution is also the recognized cause of the problem, how long can that economic narrative hold?
Wow. We have covered a staggering range of knowledge today. From calculating the billion-dollar box office needed for James Cameron's vision to survive, to understanding why a flawed mental health policy is driving families toward the criminal justice system.
And the common thread running through all of it, whether it's a $400 million budget or a complex policy, is that tension between immense expectations and harsh reality.
Every large system, Iowa, Hollywood, government policy, has to evolve to accommodate dissent and failure. It makes you reflect on the response to that failure. We saw the Na'vi Ash people embrace a new identity born from destruction, from feeling abandoned by their goddess.
And we see California families turn away from care court, their hope for compassion, toward the perceived certainty of the criminal justice system.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. When our most established systems and highest hopes fail us, the instinct is often to turn toward destruction.
Whether that's the Navi's radical fire-based survivalism or abandoning voluntary policy for compulsory intervention, does this pattern mean that true, meaningful change strength, security, survival can only be achieved by radically breaking with the established order? Or is there a third path, a new form of strength found in evolving the system rather than tearing it all down?
That is a profound question and a perfect note to leave you on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll talk to you next time.
Je peux vous le rendre, Seigneur, Seigneur, car avec les soldats, oui, les toreros peuvent s'entendre. Pour plaisir, ils ont les combats. Le cirque est plein ce jour de fête, le cirque est plein d'automates. Le spectateur est dans la tête, le spectateur c'est un peu à fracasse. Apostrophe, puis c'est tapage, pour c'est jusqu'à se l'enquérir, car c'est la fête du courage, c'est la fête des gens de guerre. Allons, en garde, allons, allons, toréador, en garde, toréador, toréador. Et songe bien, oui, songe combattant, que le noir te regarde, et que le mort t'attend, toréador, l'amour t'attend. On fait silence, à quoi se passe-t-il? Ludicrous, le taureau se lance en bandissant auditorie. Il s'élance, il entre frappe, en chevelure, entraînant en pique d'or. Ah, bravo taureau! Il vient, il frappe encore, en secouant ses banderilles, plein de fureur il court, le cirque est plein de sang, en s'essouffle, on franchit le cri, c'est un temps maintenant, allons, en garde, allons, allons, toréador, en garde, toréador, toréador. Et songe bien, oui, songe combattant, en el noir te regarde, et que l'amour t'attend, toréador. L'amour t'attend, toréador, toréador.